you ever seen anyone kill an overseer with a toothpick? Fallout Sonora is a fan-made Mexican-themed Fallout game originally released in 2019. It happens to be maybe the 4th best Fallout game ever made, which is some big shoes to fill. So, how come you haven't heard about this game before? Well, that's because of the language barrier primarily. Another reason is that the classic Fallout games just don't have as big of an audience as the mainstream first-person titles. Sonora rather faithfully imitates the style and gameplay of Fallout 1, deviating from the old game in one important way, and that is its story structure. The first half of Sonora is a detective investigation, kind of like in Arcanum, while in the second half it becomes a political struggle, like in New Vegas. Several factions, some completely new, others very familiar, will challenge each other for dominance in Arizona. This video is long and detailed, but there will be a courtesy warning before we get to the endgame spoilers, if you are worried about that sort of thing. Let's begin. Part 1. Press 2 for English. Shut up, I'm funny! Don't get intimidated by the character creation screen, it's a lot less complex than it looks. Our name is Raphael. We are a traveling doctor, roaming the wasteland curing the sick. But we also know how to use a rifle and a knife if it comes to that. We are agile, intelligent, kind of strong, and the rest of our stats are basically average. Finally, I pick the Spanish literacy trait. The game mostly takes place in the former United States, but there is also a little bit of post-apocalyptic Mexico for us to explore. The knowledge of Spanish might come in handy. It's 2167. The Master died 6 years ago. NCR doesn't exist yet, neither does Arroyo. The Tribal won't embark on his adventure for another 74 years. Welcome to the Villa, an isolated farming community, our home. The design document describes the villa as shady sands with a Spanish accent. But where is everyone? The woman with the smoking pipe is Grandma Redoncia, one of the village elders. Bad people came. They had guns. Our man couldn't do anything. All able-bodied villagers were taken. Our mom and dad were among the kidnapped. In the cellar beneath the town hall there is a hidden room with old relics. We're gonna need them. The cellar is your basic boomer RPG tutorial dungeon. Grandma gave us an old lighter we can use to light these lamps, but I'm not sure if it does anything mechanically. Might make the rats a little easier to hit. We should be beneath the town hall. One of the raiders who attacked the village was left behind. Looks like he fell down the stairs. So this is the secret room we've been told about. Our character is surprised to see a computer in the villa. The machine isn't working. In the cabinet there is a box full of old stuff. One of the items inside is a Volt jumpsuit. And so the adventure begins. Doesn't look like all working-age males were taken. Here is Chris. He hid in the cellar while everyone else was fighting. Chris feels guilty for his cowardice, but what's done is done. Using our doctor skill, we heal a wounded villager. It costs us absolutely nothing to do this, which is probably not very realistic, while providing experience and reputation rewards. A traveling doctor is a legit career path in Sonora. This is the building beneath which we found the Volt jumpsuit. Strange that the jumpsuit doesn't seem to have a number on the back. We took some casualties in the raid. Nothing we can do now. The residential part of the village is a ghost town. There is some interesting reactivity here, like we can loot the empty houses, but then once the owners get back, if they get back, they won't be super happy with us. These two are opportunistic bandits. They saw the village getting attacked, thought maybe they could grab something valuable from the warehouse behind them. The bandits are completely unafraid of us. But they should be. Healing the sick is not our only talent. The villa is politically isolationist. We know next to nothing about the outside world, the only exception being the nearby scavenger settlement. Welcome to Garage City. What's your business here? Show your hands, says the guard. Apparently, some of the local raiders suffer from a condition called the shakes, a consequence of the cannibal lifestyle. Our character gets to use his doctor's skill in dialogue. Never thought about it, but yeah, the jackals are rumored to be cannibals, says the guard. We sell all the crap we brought with us from the villa and buy our first suit of armor. Garage City is somewhat similar to Junktown from the original game. The local prospectors scavenge in the nearby industrial ruins. They are controlled by a cartel. The man named Kogan is in charge. But before we take a dive into the local politics, I want to get a feel for the surrounding area. Special encounter. A slave caravan transporting a device of some sort. What's that symbol? And who is the man in purple robes? The old Fallout games are interactive in various unexpected ways. That's one of my favorite things about them. You see these guys? They're armed with hunting rifles, powerful weapons at this stage of the game. No way we're taking them on. But I'm not content with leaving empty-handed. In classic Fallout, if you score a critical hit on a character's head, there is a very high chance of knocking them unconscious. Like this. When they are unconscious, you can freely access their inventory and take their stuff. So we grab the merc's rifle and run away. Thanks for the free gun, assholes. Back in Garage City, Kogan wants our help in dealing with the rival scavenger faction. Not sure if I'm willing to commit to this. The man doesn't look trustworthy or something. A trailer at the edge of town. Nice new sprite. The interior is also unique. Inside, there is a trap door. Well, look at that. There is equipment here to produce counterfeit bottle caps, indistinguishable from real caps, because they are real caps. We dismantle the equipment. The Watts Electronics plant. Kogan sent us here. Another new tile set. Pretty sure this one is only used once in the entire game. This man is the leader of the scavenger faction that opposes Kogan's little syndicate. He is surprised to see we are working for the man, considering he had a role to play in the kidnapping of our people. Now that is interesting information. We access Kogan's personal computer and confirm that this is indeed the case. He actively worked with the kidnappers before and after they invaded the villa. We learn of the nearby town of Flagstaff. There is a high degree of possibility our people were taken there. Lucas wants to take over the scavenger business. Actually, he is a lot more ambitious than that. There is a heavy-duty industrial machine in the Watts plant. If it could be restored to working condition, the town's economy will no longer have to revolve around finding old crap in the ruins. The conflict between the two gangs is inevitable. This is the first time we're seeing an energy weapon used in Sonora. There is another one at the plant if you have high enough repair skill to fix it. Kogan's dead. Lucas is now in charge, and we know where to go next. I am satisfied with this outcome. But before we head to Flagstaff, there is one more place I want to check out. What's up with the ventilation shafts? The ruined house is full of traps. Remember when the guard inspected us for the signs of cannibalism-related condition? These guys are the reason. The jackals are a cannibal tribe. You might be familiar with them. They were in New Vegas, although in that game they didn't have much of a culture and were basically generic raiders. They were supposed to be featured in Van Buren, the original Fallout 3 cancelled by Interplay in early 2000s. The leader of the tribe is a woman called Mad Bitch. A powerful name. Despite what this might look like, this is actually not a combat encounter location. There are several ways of solving the jackals problem peacefully. Me though? I choose violence. A cannibal tribe this close to the villa? It's just irresponsible to leave them alive. Thankfully, even when it comes to violent solutions, Sonora offers many different options. It's possible to attach a rope to one of the vents and drop right on top of the cannibals, avoiding the traps. Or we can go back to Garage City and ask the guard for backup. All we need is a few good men, and here they are. The guys are not of a very high opinion of the jackals' combat prowess. The cannibals are numerous, but individually weak, they say. We find a necklace made out of bullets of various calibers. Sonora makes a number of important changes to the skill system. Most notably, pistols and rifles are actually two separate skills. Small guns govern our proficiency with pistols and SMGs, while the big guns skill reflects our competence with rifles, shotguns, and anything bigger. Machine guns, flamethrowers, miniguns, so on. This makes the big gun skill much more useful than it was in Fallout 1 or 2. The caves are decorated with these tribal totems made out of trash trash and human bones. It's possible to dismantle them using the repair skill. Interesting. This looks high-tech. Wonder what it does. Looks like a kitchen? That's gross. This section of the caves hosts an improvised prison. Inside there is a desert ranger captured by the jackals. One of these guys. The man is wounded. We are a doctor, so we provide medical aid. The ranger joins our crew. 4 man is probably enough to take on Mad Bitch. Well, it was barely enough. The Garage City boys ended up dying to cannibals. The ranger landed the killing blow on the cannibal leader. See this? The number 15? The jackals are one of the communities who emerged from Vault 15. The Khans are another such community. Shady Sands and subsequently the NCR was founded by yet another group of former Vault 15 residents. I guess we're done here. Killed the jackals, rescued a ranger, lost 2 men. Not great, not terrible. Let's talk about the Sonora Dev Team for a minute. The mod page credits a group of people, but looking at the list closely, most of these guys appear to be testers and QA. Now, iteration is an important part of making a game good, so I'm not one to diss testers or quality assurance people. However, it does seem that the primary creative engine behind Sonora was a single individual, and that would be Alexander Pozhelusian, who goes by the online handle Black Designer. This is not even his first Fallout game, nor it is the largest. Alexander is basically one-man Tamriel rebuilt of classic Fallout modding. The developer put the design documents for Fallout Sonora in public access, so I'll be referencing them in the video. Our destination is Flagstaff, a small town built around a prison colony and a uranium mine. In New Vegas era, the place would become the headquarters of the Legion, but the events of that game are many, many decades away. You might remember this symbol. We've seen it before. The Church of the Holy Fire, an influential organization from Phoenix. Flagstaff was practically built on the church's money, brags the monk. Well, since the church is so goddamn rich, they wouldn't mind me borrowing this doctor's bag from their basement. The goddamn cultists demand you convert to their faith before providing medical aid, complains the father of a sick child. The garrison. This is where they keep our people, as well as others they kidnapped and enslaved. The man named Faber is in charge. He's this game's Metzger. The design doc says, quote, Faber is African American. This creates contrast and historical recursion, or irony, because the slaves were black. I might be persuaded to free the worthless peasants, he says, if you fix whatever is wrong with the mine. First things first, we provide medical aid to a collapsed miner. There are 2 problems for us to solve. The faulty equipment is one, and the mole rat infestation is another. We rescue a bunch of miners trapped behind a cave-in. Turns out these are some of our people from the villa. On our way back to the entrance, we are ambushed by a mole rat king. I get lucky with one of them critical hits in the eyes that instantly kills the target irrespective of damage dealt. I thought you needed a perk for that. Repairing the mining equipment turned out to be much more challenging. Impossible, actually. Using repair parts on an object that needs to be repaired will lower the skill check difficulty by 20% per part. Unfortunately, we are so incompetent that even after using 3 sets of parts, we still can't succeed in repairing the machine. Maybe Faber has something else for us to do. A few patrols were ambushed in the abandoned eastern part of the town, he says. Find out what's going on. Is that a museum?
Ветер пустыни высушит
What?
ваши
Put
кости.
points in the trap skill? I will never put points in the trap skill. Cool satellite. Another new sprite, by the way. In the basement of the museum, we find the source of Faber's problems. A desert ranger vigilante. He says the command didn't order the operation, but they also didn't do anything to stop him. I have no intention of stopping him either. This isn't good. Another task we can't complete. The ranger's name is Karuk. I'm not sure if he ever tells us that, but that's what the document says. Karuk means bear in Navajo dialect. In real life, the reservation is not geographically far from Flagstaff. Just outside of town, there is a small hunting camp occupied by hostile tribals. We rescue a captured trader and escort him back to Flagstaff. This is good for our reputation, but Faber is not impressed. Although we do convince him to allow us to see our people. Our mother is here, with a slave collar around her neck. The collars work by dead money rules, basically.
Disobey me? That collar on your neck will go off and take your head with it.
We learn another distressing fact. Not all our people are in Flagstaff. Some of them were taken elsewhere. We need to seek ranger assistance, says Mom. At this point, I'm out of options. Good thing we know the approximate location of the ranger HQ. So, who are the Rangers? The answer is complicated, but it's like this. In 1988, Interplay released a pre-boomer RPG called Wasteland. In that game, you take control of a squad of the remnants of American military, who call themselves the Desert Rangers. Wasteland didn't employ sophisticated world building and storytelling techniques or anything like that, so the Desert Ranger ideology was they're basically good guys. In 1997, the same company, Interplay, released Fallout, the original. The events of that game took place in a completely different fictional setting, and yet it also had Desert Rangers, although initially it was more of a homage than anything. Later on, the Rangers were formalized in Fallout lore, and we have one of them staring at us from New Vegas box art. Sonora takes place 6 years after Fallout 1. The Ranger unification didn't happen yet. NCR doesn't exist yet. The founding of the Republic is still decades away. The Rangers in Sonora, strictly speaking, are not these guys. They're more like these guys. Glorified wasteland cops. Did you know that the Colorado River has something like 15 dams on the main stem? Hoover Dam is one of them. This little thing is another. The power plant serves as the main ranger base of operations. It's inaccessible to outsiders. We talk to the officer and explain our predicament. I feel bad for you, he says. There are many who are suffering. The Red Plague from Phoenix is expanding through Arizona, enslaving and conquering everything on its path. So, are you going to help? Unfortunately, we don't have enough rangers. Our forces are busy elsewhere. And then the fucker has the audacity to ask us for help. They need a radio tower repaired or whatever. Can't believe I used to think these guys were cool. Not far from the dam, there is a small fishing village. The locals have a problem with people disappearing. The place is managed by this guy, an ex-ranger veteran named Gart. He doesn't seem to care about the disappearances at all. That's very not suspicious. So I snoop around the aqueduct. Using a rope, we descend into the manhole to the caverns beneath the village. Huh. A bunch of half-eaten dead bodies. Somebody was trying to cover their tracks. Getting Broken Hills vibes from this. One of Guard's lieutenants confronts us. It's obvious they are behind this, but their motivations are not super clear. The Broken Hills conflict in Fallout 2 was about racism and speciesism. But these guys, I think they just don't like outsiders. We have a problem. When we report our findings to the ranger officer, he just laughs at us and tells us to fuck off. Gart is a respected man, a pillar of the community. The aqueduct locals like him. The rangers like him, killing people and leaving their bodies in the dungeon to be eaten by wild animals. Well, that's just crazy talk. And if we confront the man ourselves, the entire community raises up to stop us. Unless you intend on killing every man, woman and child in the aqueduct, you have to reload. Fuck the Desert Cop Mafia. Not far from the dam, there is a little abandoned town of Quartz. Well, it's not entirely abandoned. The place is populated by ghouls, most of whom live in a trailer park. Was there ever a trailer park in a Fallout game before? There must have been. Is there one in Fallout 76? The design doc describes Quartz as a gateway between Arizona and California. The town was also featured in Wasteland 1. In fact, in that game it was a major location. You might assume that since the big guns category now includes both rifles and heavy weapons, it's overall much more valuable than small guns. Well, it's balanced by two things. Big guns tend to be specialized, like for example this shotgun has very short range, and the ammunition tends to be more rare and expensive. And most importantly, big guns take more action points to use. Since the Rangers won't help us, we'll need to seek assistance elsewhere. The closest nearby settlement is a place called Tucson Brahmin. The first thing we see is a war camp. The mercenaries, or the colonists like they prefer to call themselves, were sent here from Phoenix. This land belongs to Lord Aaron, master of the Holy Fire and the ruler of Phoenix, says the leader of the Mercs. The local tribe of Brahmin herders is squatting on Aaron's land, and we can't just evict them by force. The Brahmin, the two-headed cows, are a valuable commodity in Phoenix. San Brahmin doesn't resemble a typical tribal village. It's more like a small town with traders, infrastructure and all. It seems obvious that the community existed here for years, possibly decades, and it almost certainly predates Aaron's rule. But would it change anything even if it didn't? We are all cursed by the Dark Brahmin, says the leader of the tribals. He wants to ally with the Rangers. I'm staying clear of the local politics until I learn more about the factions involved. We do, however, provide medical aid to the wounded locals. The medical bag we confiscated in Flagstaff came in handy. Of course, the Rangers have their representative politicking with the tribals. What's this? An ancient holy book? A curiosity. It's time we finally visit Phoenix, the place we heard so much about, the biggest city in the game. The place has old-school Fallout 1 Gothic vibe, the aesthetic that is mostly absent in the subsequent games. Justice prevails, no one escapes the vengeance of the heavens. The city feels like a combination of Angel's Boneyard and the Hub. Street vendors. This lady sells clothing and armor. It's time for us to upgrade to leather. Hell yeah! This is a specialist on old relics, like the book we found, or that gizmo we retrieved from the jackals a while back. It turned out to be a music box, by the way. A gun store and a shooting range. You can pay to practice your firearm skills. This is a one-time kind of thing, and it costs a crazy amount of caps, but the skill increase is permanent. Well, it wouldn't be a Fallout game if it didn't have a casino. After we buy him a drink, a traveler tells a spooky story about an old motel occupied by cannibal ghouls. A local is trying to rob us, using a primitive homemade handgun. That's just sad. Underneath the city, there is a vast network of sewers. This section is used by the poor as shelter. Let's talk about music for a second. The game uses the combination of old Fallout music and original tracks composed by the artist Nobody's Nail Machine. Their imitation of Mark Morgan's style is superb. This is the theme of the city of Phoenix. Jackals. Garage City. But the star of the show is La Ciudad del Sol, the theme of the invading Mexican army. Spoilers. The Church of the Holy Fire has the same musical theme as the Children of the Cathedral in Fallout 1. And as you can see, the similarities don't end there. This is intentional and kind of clever storytelling. You'll figure it out. The monks operate an impressive library. Free skill increases for us. Lord Aaron resides on the top floor. Society isn't ready for independence. The people need tyrants and guides, he says. Our organization funds colonies and various projects. If a project requires slave labor, as they occasionally do, it is provided. We need to be very careful navigating this conversation. One wrong word and our equipment will be confiscated and we'll end up enslaved in Tucson. That would be a sequence break. We don't even know where Tucson is yet. It's obvious we won't find help in Phoenix. The Rangers and the Tribals won't help us either. Well, that leaves us with one last option. Just kill the motherfuckers. Big guns and melee weapons have excellent synergy as it turns out. Knives and spears have relatively low AP cost and most of them don't require ammunition to use. Your rule came to an end. Sometimes our character would say a one-liner when we kill an important NPC. Rest in peace, Roy Faber. This console deactivates the explosive collars. We searched through the files on Faber's personal computer. Some of the most physically developed villagers were taken elsewhere by the fire worshippers. We rescue Mom and others and escort them out of town. I'm almost done with Flagstaff, but there is one last thing left to do. We inform the vigilante ranger that Faber is dead and he can return to base. All things considered, he wasn't super helpful. The town is being consumed by a crime wave. The slavers, the colonists, were keeping the peace. One of their functions made the trains run on time, I guess. There are random dead bodies on the streets. Whatever, fuck Flagstaff. Now that we rescued most of the captives, let's head back to the villa and see if anything has changed. Well, the place is certainly a lot more populated. The game's design document emphasizes that the consequences of players' actions are not just a matter of ending slides. They must be immediately observable in-game. Our father and a few others are still missing, but we know who knows where they are. Fire worshippers. These are mutated scolopendras. New creature, new sprite. Mid-tier enemy, not super dangerous. The sounds and death animations are fantastically well made. We ask a bunch of traders in Phoenix about slave caravans, but nobody knows anything, nobody saw anything. The arena. Prize fighting is a Fallout gameplay trope. For this reason, when I played Sonora for the first time, I made a character that specialized in unarmed combat. Unfortunately, the Phoenix Arena turned out to be the only establishment of this sort in the entire game. We perform our duties as a doctor by healing a wounded fighter. The arena battles are extremely challenging, and it's basically pointless to participate if you're not properly trained. So I explore the Phoenix Underground instead. We find this on one of the dead bodies. An old watch? The specialist on old crap says the device still works. The atomic battery will be good for decades. He tells of a faction called Tinsmiths from the town of Tucson who love old tech like this. There are many secrets hidden underground, too many to cover in fact. This out-of-the-way place is the HQ of one of the biggest regional raider gangs. It's a fortress, really, and perhaps surprisingly not a combat encounter location. There are quite a few quests we can do here. I mean, we won't, but the option is there. The raiders call themselves the Blue Shields. This guy is the leader, an amazing animated head. Understandably, in Sonora, none of them are voice acted. If you botch the dialogue, you'll end up with your items confiscated and facing a firing squad. Yeah, I'll be back later once I get a bigger machine gun. Welcome to Casa Grande, a little town halfway between Phoenix and Tucson. At least I think it's a town. The place looks deserted. The reason to visit are the water merchants. It seems they have some kind of a problem with the locals. I have no idea who is in the wrong here. The situation eventually deteriorates and the merchant is about to die. Alright, I guess I have to help him. So I take aim with a shotgun, pull the trigger and accidentally hit the person I was trying to save. You know what? I'm not reloading. The merchants had a problem with their water purification system. I fixed it using spare parts, the least I can do after, you know. We don't forget about our responsibility to help the sick. This here is the mansion of the mayor, who calls himself a count. Empty beer bottles everywhere. The man has a problem with alcohol. We tell him our story and ask if a slave caravan went through here recently. Slavers are a powerful force, and my town survives by servicing trade caravans. Don't you dare to break this relationship, says the Count. This old man turned out to be more helpful. Remember how in the very beginning of the game, during the character creation, we picked the Spanish literacy trait? We didn't get the chance to use it until now. The old man is happy to hear his mother tongue. He and a bunch of others crossed the Sonoran Desert on foot. Most of them didn't make it. Life in post-apocalyptic Mexico is not better than in the former United States, it seems. Good old double-barreled shotgun is useful well into the mid-game. Elsewhere, an act of grave robbing goes wrong. Inside the cave, we find a skeleton with this old US Ranger badge, a relic from the old world. We found quite a few of those. The challenge is figuring out what to do with them. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes not so much. Remember the music box we recovered from the Jackal's camp? That was a while ago. In Casa Grande, we meet this kid who is playing with a grenade. That's dangerous. The kid isn't very talkative until we show him the music box. Now he's intrigued. Where did you get the grenade? This unlocks a new location for us to visit. An abandoned school. Goddamn mines.
Все кончено.
A gas mask. Not a unique item, they sell those in Phoenix, but I'm sure it will come in handy. In the basement we find a real prize. A grenade launcher with several 40mm grenades. On our way back we are ambushed by raiders. We take an AK-112 from one of the bodies. This is another important upgrade because the AK fire is one of the more prevalent ammunition types. Ammo for big guns can be somewhat scarce, but with this rifle we can fire in bursts all day, no problem. Another dead raider provides us with the third important arsenal upgrade, a Pneumatic Spear. Spears are some of my favorite weapons in classic Fallout, primarily because of the cool animations. Mechanically though, they're almost completely worthless. But not in Sonora, and that's not even the best spear we can get in the game. Let's check out this little location. A spooky motel and a diner, a bunch of dead bodies in the freezer. These ghouls are the hosts. They're armed with ripper knives. They're cannibals, says the trader we rescued. We need to get the hell out of here. Sure, but I want to see what's in the basement first. Don't worry, old lady. You're safe now. You can come with us. The lady turned out to be their mom. According to the design document, the woman is supposed to be immobile, chained to the bed. Her health damaged by the child rearing. I guess the custom sprite and animation work turned out to be too much. You know what I just realized? We have a grenade launcher. I wonder why they call themselves Blue Shields. Is this like a tribe of post-apocalyptic cops? The grenade launcher is a surprisingly accurate weapon that deals amazing aerial effect damage. Oh my god, are you for real? That was the bandit leader, this guy. We take his head, and on the body there is the first proper big gun we found. A flamethrower, a classic. There are all kinds of interesting items here, like this custom leather jacket. Makes me wonder what kind of quests we missed by refusing to be social with the raiders. I believe these are the keys for the bike, and this is a set of metal armor. I usually end up skipping it in classic Fallout games, but not this time. We put the key in the ignition. Let's go. When I'm on the road, I am indestructible. No one can stop me. But they try. Part 2. Asphalt and Trouble. The bike comes with a storage compartment. The space is limited, but you can upgrade it. The office of the local crime fighters and bounty hunters. This is where they issue bounties on dangerous criminals. I'm not a sheriff, you idiot, says the mercenary. As it turns out, there is a dangerous criminal in Phoenix, and that's us. We are wanted in Flagstaff. Fortunately, after what we've done with the place, the locals can't actually afford to pay the bills, so we are safe for now. Based on what we've learned, it's possible to make an educated guess where Tucson is. These guys are called Tin Smiths, another faction, but they don't allow just anyone inside the gates. There are many ways of getting access, but we simply show the guard the old watch we found in the Phoenix sewers. I'm a trader. I have many rare items like this. The Tin Man are post-apocalyptic cyborg people. The design doc says they combine some of the features of Reavers from Fallout Tactics, the Star Trek Borg, and Boomers from New Vegas. The settlement is built around an old military base. This huge hangar serves as Tinsmith HQ. The scientists and engineers are studying old airplane parts. At least that's what it looks like on the surface. The design doc says it's supposed to be an imitation. They're playing scientists, although I'm not sure if the actual game communicates that. The Tinsmith trader has an amazing selection. You see this thing? These are nuclear batteries, fuel for your bike. In Sonora, your personal transport no longer runs on plasma rifle ammunition. And this is a motion sensor. In Fallout 2, having this item in your inventory provides a 20% bonus to one's outdoorsman skill, which is useful for avoiding encounters while traveling on the world map. I assume in this game it's the same. Beyond the hangar lies the Forbidden Zone, the part of the airbase that wasn't yet looted by the Tin Man. The reason it wasn't looted is because of the still active ancient defenses. This is what the slaves are for. The Tin Man used slaves and mercenaries to organize human wave attacks on the robotic defenders, hoping to eventually weather them down. And who knows, maybe one of the slaves gets lucky and grabs a useful piece of technology. Our people, the ones are still missing, are almost certainly in the Forbidden Zone, assuming they're still alive. It's basically an open-air dungeon full of melee robots. Occasionally, you would meet a human survivor. The best way of taking down robots is via disabling their sensor lenses. Hit them in the eyes. The robots do a lot of damage, and if you'll end up fighting more than one at the same time, you'll probably die. It's possible to visit the Forbidden Zone much earlier by getting enslaved by Aaron, but in that case your equipment will be confiscated. Characters specializing in unarmed combat would probably get through the dungeon just fine, even naked. Olden B-24 Liberators. Huh, what's this? By using the repair skill, we detach the minigun from the plane. Yep, it's a legit minigun. Skill-wise, we are quite proficient in using it, but some of the bigger weapons in Fallout have strength requirements. We lack exactly 1 point of strength to use the weapon competently. The bunker in the heart of the Forbidden Zone. Here we learn more about this place. The airbase was managed by a military AI called Zax. When the bombs started to fall, something went wrong with the machine's programming. The staff attempted to deactivate the AI, but it doesn't look like they succeeded. We talked to Zax. The machine's main function is the disposal of old aircraft. However, in crisis situations, like, say, a nuclear war and the destruction of the United States, the AI is allowed a certain decision-making autonomy. If the Tin Man and their benefactors, I assume he means the monks, gain full access to the airbase, this will have political consequences for the region. Tyranny, wars, population decline. Zax wants us to change his programming a little so that the AI has even more freedom to act, which it would use to wipe out the Tinsmith settlement. Interesting, but what about the initial rebellion? Back during the war? Can't help but notice that the machine failed to mention that one. So we deactivate the AI. I'll deal with the consequences later. Here is Dad. He survived the airbase. I think this is it, the last of the kidnapped. This chapter of the main quest should be behind us. Dad will meet us back at the villa. Having conquered the Forbidden Zone, we dramatically walk into the sunset. It's time for us to meet the Tin Man leader. His name is Hard, like in hard drive. God damn, I can't get over how amazing is the design of the talking heads in this game. The Tin Man are the dumbest of Sonora's factions. There is no voice acting, but the guy speaks like a Borg drone, and at one point he literally says, "You will be assimilated. You and your people deserve freedom. You can go," he says. "One day, the Brotherhood of Steel will come to your homes. What will you do then? Be rational and surrender to progress." The Brotherhood of Steel. We, the player, know who they are, but our character does not. I suppose that explains the markings on the crates in Tinsmith Warehouse. The Brotherhood, not the Church, is their patron. Interested in learning more about the Brotherhood operations in Arizona, I decide to do more work for the Tin Man. The game displays in-engine cutscene demonstrating that now, since the Forbidden Zone have been conquered, the Cybermen no longer need some of their old connections. The Cyberdoc is proficient at installing implants, but not at conventional medicine. We heal his patient ourselves. The town outskirts, tinsmiths keep losing trading expeditions. In this vault of a pre-war banking establishment, we discover the reason for the disappearances. A bunch of heavily armed runaway slaves led by an undercover ranger. You do understand we can't let you go, right? He says. Well, I can't let you go either. The robot man is pleased, but there is another problem. A tinsmith emissary they sent to Casa Grande is gone, also disappearing without a trace. The mayor, the count, claims he doesn't know anything about anything. He's one of those people who always look like they're lying even though they're actually not. We should check the local graveyard. What are you doing, moron? Asks the ranger. The Tin Men are looking for the lost comrade. He's in this grave, we reply. I know, I put him there. So you confess to murder. Name the reason why I should leave you alive. I have 6, says the ranger. The Rangers are spreading false rumors about us. Go to Steelport. Tell the Brotherhood about this conflict. But the audience with the Brotherhood is not the only reason to work for the Cybermen. Now that they consider us to be one of them, we are allowed to install an implant. It's basically a very expensive attribute increase. You can only install one, so it's important to choose carefully. I pick intelligence. I suppose strength would have been another good option, so we could wield a minigun. It's time we visit Steelport. The Brotherhood Paladins are well-trained and exceptionally well-equipped, but they are few in number. Walking around Puerto makes this immediately obvious. There are barely any sentries. Here is a fun twist. The Brotherhood base isn't a settlement, it's the ship. And like with anything in Sonora, there are multiple ways of getting access. One of them is via a recommendation from Mr. Hard, which I completely forgot we had. Another is by doing a classic Brotherhood suicide mission. To the north of here, there is a place called Inferno, a bombed-out city. A Brotherhood convoy was lost traversing the ruins. Go there, find them, bring them back. The Paladin also says something about an army advancing from the south. So I guess the Brotherhood isn't the biggest fish in the pond, huh? A traffic jam. Inferno is Mexicali. A Mexican city that was almost certainly annexed by the United States before the Great War. Due to its dangerously close proximity to the glow, Inferno became a city of ghoulified FEV mutants. We find one willing to talk. I haven't seen a normie ever since you people hid in the vaults. What do you want? There are no normies here. Go away. There are few of us left, but even now there are rich demons and poor demons like myself, he says. The rich ones glow in the dark. In life, they used to be important people. Now, after they became demons, they still seek to dominate the rest of us. That's fine. Let it be as they want. Let them glow. Live forever in pain. A pack shares food. Can't survive alone. The glowing ones take the best bits. And when there is no food, it's the weakest of us that are eaten. Like myself. They'll eat me, and I'll be free. The ghoul is a poet. He seems to think it's the radiation that made him what he is, but that's not quite the whole story. The Brotherhood survivors I kept in the church somewhere in town. There are many melee enemies in Inferno. I conserve shotgun ammunition by using our Pneumatic Spear. One of the convoy survivors is hiding in the sewers. We heal his broken leg. I'm pretty sure Paladin Barkley is a companion character, but I prefer to work alone. We'll pick him up on our way back. The old supermarket is infested with demons. And this is the old church the ghoul was telling us about. Just look at this excellent talking head. I seriously unironically like it better than Fallout 1 Super Mutants. Coincidentally, this is the first Super Mutant we meet in Sonora, and one of the last. Barely any of them in this game. He takes us to their leader, a child of the cathedral named Levius. We tell him of our mission. He'll help us if we help him. A lab in the basement. A number of interesting things here, like that power armor. It's missing a helmet and a bunch of mechanical components. That's the item the convoy was transporting to Puerto. The Brotherhood would want this recovered. See the dead centaur in one of the cells? A centaur is a type of FEV mutant, a hybrid between a human and a bunch of different animals. According to one of the design docs, it was supposed to be a unique centaur that managed to barely retain their ability to talk. The scientists don't know what to do with it. There was supposed to be a bunch of choices. Diana is a follower of the apocalypse. Anarchist post-apocalyptic doctors and scientists. Our kind of people. FEV fucked up Levius' flock in a number of unpredictable ways. The mutants feel constant pain. The virus needs to be stabilized. Diana happens to be a specialist, and she can do this if we recover her medical toolkit lost somewhere in the city. Strictly speaking, we don't have to help the mutants. The situation can be resolved through violence or sneakery. But since we are a wasteland doctor, I feel it's our responsibility to ease their pain. This is where the Brotherhood convoy was ambushed by the Inferno ghouls. A monument to Vicente Guerrero, an important revolutionary general of the Mexican War of Independence. I'm sorry for butchering the name. We find a power armor helmet in one of the crates. This will come in handy. On a body of the Brotherhood technician, there is this thing, a Mexican-made submachine gun, HM-23. This is a new weapon in Sonora, and I'm not sure if the gun has a real-life prototype. In the building next door, we find Diana's stolen chemical kit. The power armor is almost ready for transport. We just need to get the mechanical component from Levius. Diana performs a chemical experiment, creating an FEV stabilizing agent. Levius is grateful. Both of you deserve freedom, he says. You can leave at any time. But from now on, Inferno is a mutant city. No normals will ever be allowed access. We perform the final repairs on the power armor. This is one of my favorite classic Fallout weapon and armor combinations. Power armor and a spear. Sonora is the only game where this is an actual viable build because it's the only Fallout game with advanced spears. Can't help but think we forgot something. Oh yeah, Paladin Barkley. Alright, let's go home. So our bike has a single seat. We have 2 companions. How would this work? Oh, it won't. We have to come back for the bike later. Feels weird to be traveling with a group. Sonora companions are done in New Vegas style, meaning the followers are more developed and they comment on players' actions and areas you visit, but you can only have 2 at the same time. A human and a pet follower. Diana is an exception because she's a temporary companion. Special encounter. A crashed bomber. Inside the crate we find an atomic grenade. Powerful, unique, single use. Will come in handy one day. Welcome to the Brotherhood, says Barkley. The Brotherhood HQ is a Garing-class destroyer. It sailed here from California, a one-way trip, not enough fuel to go back, and the ship's engines are not in the best condition. The design doc says in the early draft of the game's script it was supposed to be a submarine, which is also a cool idea, but I'm glad they ended up doing a ship because it means we can have cool stuff like this. Or this. These are Terrier-class surface-to-air missiles, although in real life they look a little different. All these sprites are unique to Sonora, of course. That's the bridge. It's not crude. The ship isn't going anywhere. The actual center of operations is below decks. Meet General Dixon, the regional leader of the Brotherhood. All power armor suits are property of the Brotherhood of Steel. Return it to the quartermaster immediately. He won't talk to us until we do. Fine. Wearing PA actually does have disadvantages in Sonora. Some characters won't speak to you, Lord Aaron is one of them, and you can't pickpocket people while wearing power armor, which makes perfect sense, but we are not into that stuff anyway. If we really care about the safety of our people, the villa should come under the Brotherhood sovereignty. In exchange for some surplus crops, we'll protect you from threats and provide technological assistance, says Dixon. This lady is the head scribe, another fantastic animated head. The ship is essentially a city-like location with many characters and side quests. Curious. 2 functioning torpedoes with nuke warheads. This sounds more like a recipe for disaster than a practical weapon. This terminal controls the launch. Very interesting. We travel to a Brotherhood field camp in the Sonoran Desert. Paladin Dobbs explains the mission. Together with a squad of soldiers, we are to attack a raider camp and rescue a trader they captured. It's a little strange that all the raiders seem to speak Spanish. This is a new sprite, by the way, created by Alexander Berezin. Here are some more animations from Alexander's ArtStation page. And here are the death animations. They look fantastic. The second mission has us and a squad of paladins attack a fortified raider camp in bombed-out Mexican town. What is this? Fallout Tactics? You are looking at the new Mexican urban tile set. It's used in some locations in the southern part of the game world. The territory is taken by the US from Mexico. Creating new graphics for classic Fallout takes an incredible amount of effort. The devs didn't really have to make a new tile set, and yet here it is, and it fits the game like it was made by the original Interplay team. Is that Mexican money? These guys are obviously not raiders, but we know nothing about how the post-nuclear Mexican state is organized. There is an army of soldiers gathering in the south. The only thing preventing them from marching to Phoenix is the Great Sonoran Desert, the logistical challenge they would eventually overcome. We make important gear upgrades. Combat armor is everyone's favorite sprite in classic Fallout. Well, maybe not everyone's, but it certainly is mine. Look at that. This thing is creatively called Energy Spear. It uses the spear animations, consumes energy weapons ammo, and deals massive amounts of damage. The last of Dobbs' missions has us attacking a raider field base hidden in a cave. I suppose these are Vanguard troops. Our buddy Garage City Guard is impressed with our bike, and this is what it is for, to impress other men. There is honestly very little value in owning a vehicle in classic Fallout. Kogan's former mechanic can make a number of upgrades to the bike, and they're all extremely expensive. That's the game's main money sink, and this is just the first tier of enhancements. It gets really absurd later on. I had to resort to working for the gangsters in Phoenix in order to make money. There is this cool side quest where you rob a Nuka-Cola plant protected by Mr. Handy robots and get away with a crate of bottle caps. Another way to make cash is bounty hunting. There are 4 head hunting quests and they pay well. Remember the expert on old world oddities in Phoenix? He sells this thing, a lamp we can attach to the bike. Not sure if it does anything mechanically. Perhaps it makes map encounters easier to avoid. I don't know. The design doc says if you have a Deathclaw skull, you can attach it to the bike for style points. The problem is, there are only 3 Deathclaws in the game, and I didn't manage to find a single one of them. Despite being long and detailed, this video covers maybe 1/5 of the content. Sequence break. Later in the story, the Tin Man mechanic would upgrade our bike with jet boosters.
Oh, just your average everyday pre-regulation destroyer class solid fuel recoil booster.
You're serious?
Yes.
The procedure costs a phenomenal 9,000 caps, and it changes the look of the vehicle so it resembles Ben's bike from LucasArts' post-apocalyptic biker adventure Full Throttle. We have some housekeeping to do. The villa's residents gather in the town hall for an important meeting. What about that metal thing you are driving around, kicking up dust, scaring the children? We don't need things like that. Some of the locals are just idiotically anti-technology. There are 2 problems the elders want us to solve. First, there is the issue with the Flagstaff Mine. The local authorities use forced labor, creating demand for slaves. The mine must be destroyed. You guys should have told me this earlier. And the second problem concerns the Garage City scavengers who intend on reactivating the old industrial equipment. This will no doubt bring more caravan traffic to the town and more unwanted attention to the villa. The plant must be destroyed. I'm not sure I agree. Seems like our little victimized community is very quickly becoming the victimizer. Remember Chris, the local peasant who hid while the raiders were ransacking the villa? He's gone. The villagers intend to hang him for cowardice, so he hid somewhere. But first things first. Not sure why Faber's mine administrator is still alive. I think I just forgot about him. In order to collapse the mine, we have to place explosives anywhere on the first floor. Job done. When it comes to Garage City and the plant, I choose to do nothing at all. The politically isolationist anti-technology mindset seems stupid and disadaptive. It's not even worth seriously discussing. What we need is a bunch of guns and a patron. The world is changing, and the old man will have to change with it, says our buddy Lucas. We are getting closer to the big spoiler segment, but we are not there yet. It takes a few days to cross the Sonoran Desert on our bike. We We are at the southernmost edge of the map. Welcome to Hermosillo, Mexico. Perhaps a local can tell us about the political situation in the country. Was Mexico ever featured in a Fallout game before? The new government and the army are terrible to peasants. They are being worked like slaves. Some choose to flee north. This is the garrison. The talking head speaks Spanish exclusively. If you don't know the language, you wouldn't be able to communicate. Or rather you would, but not for long. The design doc says he's supposed to insult the exclusively Anglophone character by calling them a kulak. You cross the Sonoran Desert? That's hard to believe. In any case, turn around and go back the way you came. This is a fort of the United Mexican Army. Civilians cannot enter. Can I join your ranks? We ask the sentry. A gringo from the north wants to join us? Just get the hell out of here. Well, that was disappointing. Unlike, say, the Jackals, which was not a purely combat encounter location, Hermosillo kind of is. You can either kill all the soldiers or sneak past them. It's impossible to work for the Mexicans. If you choose the route of sneakery, the location can be visited much earlier. The wiki says 40 points in sneak is enough to do basically everything if you're careful. But as a combat encounter, this is one of the hardest locations so far. The soldiers are armed with Mexican-made machine guns and American M16 rifles. I had to use most of the stimpaks we collected in our adventure. This guy, Jack, is a merc prisoner held captive by the Mexicans. He works for the Brotherhood, but he is not a member of the organization. Jack is one of the potential companions if you want him. For our service to the cause, the general finally accepts us into the Brotherhood proper. Now we can choose a career path: Scribe, Paladin, Scout, or Knight, which is basically a Brotherhood engineer. Depending on our choice, we get different item rewards from the Quartermaster. One of the rewards is a suit of advanced combat armor, which is cool, but now, since we are a full member, we have another privilege. Fuck yes. Before we get to the big-time spoilers and the ending, I want to finalize the review part of the video. Playing Sonora feels like playing Fallout 1 2, if that makes any sense. Well, if you are a Fallout nerd, it should. The original two classics have a very different tone, different themes, and a different writing style. The stated intention behind Sonora was to make more of Fallout 1, and well, mission accomplished. One thing I want to complain about are map encounters. Random world map adventures are an important part of classic Fallout gameplay. The variety and complexity of encounters reached its peak in the second game, and unfortunately Sonora is not quite on that level. It took me several in-game weeks to explore the remote southwestern part of the game world. I was hoping to find Deathclaws, but instead I found a group of ants exploring the shore. The game kept spamming this event over and over. A trading caravan, a common encounter type in every Fallout game, but in Sonora, I've only met a caravan once. However, there is a very good selection of rare or special encounters, which is another part of the gameplay identity of classic Fallout. Some of these are jokes or references, others provide the player with important items. Here is a fun one, a shy robot. I managed to successfully avoid humans for 90 years. Meeting you ends my mission. This is unacceptable. I think this guy might be the only brain bot in the entire game. Here is an encounter so rare, I haven't actually managed to find it in-game. Had to use the cheat menu. A super mutant mobile base crawler. If I remember my Fallout lore, this one is supposed to be originally featured in Fallout 2, but was cut from the final version. Sonora's biggest flaw is that it doesn't do enough with its Mexican theme. You've seen it yourself. We picked a Spanish literacy trait, but there were barely any instances where we got to use it. Furthermore, speaking Spanish didn't seem to affect much story-wise. I wish we could work with the invading Mexicans. The game hints that they might be Authcoms, but nothing is stated explicitly. The design document clarifies barely anything. Anyway, that's Fallout Sonora. There is a bike, but no wingless land plane. 5 out of 10 game at best. Take a look at the pinned comment. Once the English translation is ready, there will be a download link. Thanks for watching. Major spoilers ahead. Part 3. Fear and loathing in the Sonoran Desert. Like I said earlier, the game's narrative structure doesn't actually resemble classic Fallout much. Instead, it's a detective investigation, kind of like in Arcanum, and in the very end it becomes a faction conflict like in New Vegas. But before we start making big-time political decisions, we need to have a full picture of what's going on in the wasteland. The last chess pieces need to be placed on the board. This is Vault 25 underneath the cathedral. We bullshit our way inside. It's one of the 2 Phoenix vaults. On the second floor there is an atomic bomb. The weapon is not 100% operational, but it's getting there. I take it this is why the cultists were importing uranium from Flagstaff. What are they gonna do with a bomb though? Well, it will become clear very soon. I am pleased to meet you, brother. Agents of the Brotherhood told me about you, and I must say you show a lot of promise. The Overseer is actually a Brotherhood paladin, Ulysses Grant, named after the 18th president of the US, who prior to that was a military leader, and prior to that a veteran of Mexican-American War. What did the developers mean by this? Remember us noticing that the Church of the Holy Fire very obviously resembles the Children of the Cathedral from the first game. Even the musical theme is the same. This is intentional. The cult is organized like that because the Brotherhood was intimately familiar with the Children and their methods. Like I said, this is clever storytelling. The cult is only a few years old. Back then, Phoenix was in turmoil. The Brotherhood stepped in, took charge of one of the local factions, rebranded it into the church, and installed their own people in leadership roles. This is why they're building a bomb. It's near worthless for the cultists, but the Brotherhood certainly can find use for such a weapon. The cult is directly puppeteered to act in Brotherhood's interests. Slavery? Well, the Paladins don't like slavery, but you know, you can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. Eggs, in this case, being our family members. I'm not sure if I'm on board with this. The Rangers won't allow us inside the dam if we are wearing power armor. We have to leave it with the bike. The dam is another unique tile set not used anywhere else. Trading hall and barracks on the second floor. Look at all that power generating machinery. And this here is the Ranger boss. He refuses to talk to us as long as we are a member of the Brotherhood. Can't really blame him. Unlike the Brotherhood, the Rangers are not involved in a grand conspiracy. Problems with Rangers usually concern vigilante justice and someone abusing power. Relatively small-scale stuff. Back in the cult HQ, we learned of the location of Vault 27, the other Phoenix Vault. Looks like the place was breached. We'll need a rope and a gas mask to navigate the dungeon. The threats here are ghoulified former inhabitants. We rescue a scientist stuck in one of the lower levels, a potential companion. Looks like the mentally unstable Overseer initiated something called Protocol Zero, a self-destruct sequence. That's not the whole story though. I didn't show this yet, but when we rescued our father from the Tin Man, we were presented a holodisc containing a message from Felix Tejada, the founder of the villa and a former resident of Vault 27. This is where our jumpsuit came from. They were running out of supplies. The vault was overcrowded and politically unstable with constant revolts against the Overseer's rule. The only thing that would have allowed us to survive was the Garden of Eden creation kit, writes Tejada. Eventually, our ancestor gathered a number of trusted men who managed to steal the vault's gek and escape into the wasteland, leaving the rest of their comrades behind. After a long and dangerous journey, Felix and his people found a suitable place, and this is how the villa was founded, the community built on betrayal. In the very end of the message, the founder tells us to stay clear of ancient technologies and to chase away outsiders before they can cause any harm. I don't get it. In the story told by Felix, it was him who fucked everyone over, not the outsiders, and the ancient technology was the thing that enabled the survival of the community. I don't think our founder was a qualified leader. Meanwhile, the village elders are uncharacteristically rational today. We are peasants, they say. We don't know how to fight. We need a patron. We need to ally with the Rangers. The elders send us on a diplomatic mission, but I doubt the Rangers would want to talk to us anyway. Besides, there is something else we need to do first. We track down Chris. He is hiding in the ruins not far from the villa. Wants to flee to the Rangers or the Garage City Scavengers, but needs provisions. Can't make the trip without food. As we escort Chris out of the ruins, we are ambushed by a villa resident. Nothing personal, Chris, he says. You will have to become an example. This was decided by the commune. Time for you to die. There is no option for us to protest or stop them. Chris is gonna hang. Earlier, when he asked for provisions, I had to buy them in the villa itself. I wonder if that's how we got found out? I'm not sure what to say. I take back the comment about the elders being rational. The villa's residents are incredibly unsympathetic people. The outcome of the founder's strategy was both catastrophic and avoidable. Despite having a GEC, a miracle terraforming tool, the villa never became an economic powerhouse. Chris, who is to be executed for cowardice, seems to be a non-neurotypical individual. Like all shit communities in real life, the moron peasants of the villa love abusing their own. The preservation of the villa's authentic culture, LOL, is no longer a concern to us. So what else have we learned of fear and loathing in the Sonoran Desert? Let's see. The Brotherhood expedition arrived in the region 5 or so years ago. They established diplomatic outposts in the neighboring communities. Since manpower was a concern, the organization acted through proxies and intermediaries, keeping low profile. A typical Fallout village has a population of dozens, maybe low hundreds if it's a small town. The city of Phoenix and the surrounding area had 1,500,000 people and ghouls living there. In order to control such a large number of residents, the Brotherhood puppeteered a local cult. The cult expands its territory by employing mercenaries and colonists to annex nearby lands. The puppets have their own puppets. The Brotherhood controls Lord Aaron, and Aaron controls Faber and his slavers, who came to our home, killed our people, kidnapped our mom and dad, forced us to embark on this adventure. This is the strangest faction conflict I've ever seen in an RPG. There is only one real faction. The power imbalance is insane. Compared to the Brotherhood, the Rangers are a non-entity. This is very cool. Makes our decision-making extraordinarily complicated. Prior to New Vegas, Fallout factions suffered from being excessively over-aestheticized, meaning they never had a coherent ideology or ethics and were instead represented by cool images and symbols, kind of like Star Wars factions. Since the Brotherhood never stood for anything real, it was begging to be elaborated on in spin-offs and sequels. Fallout Tactics, the PlayStation Boss, Fallout 3, Fallout 4 all presented their own vision of the Brotherhood that had fuck all to do with other interpretations. In Sonora, the organization leverages their technological superiority and knowledge of the old world to pursue the agenda of cynical predatory imperialism. This is my favorite portrayal of the Brotherhood in any Fallout game. And everything was fine until the Mexicans showed up. So that's the situation. We are a desert wandering doctor. The question is, how do we heal the wasteland? When I played the game for the first time back in 2020, I ended up siding with the Paladins. My final act was blowing up the Ranger Dam. The whole thing was done primarily via dialogue menus, and honestly it felt uninspired. "Good work, amigo," said the general. The Brotherhood technologies transformed the villa. The old peasant culture that fetishized technological backwardness was gone. The Brotherhood maintained secret control over Arizona for decades, until their own vassals managed to push the order aside in a struggle for power. Strangely enough, this ending, all endings actually, are perfectly compatible with Fallout canon. The game takes place 74 years before the events of Fallout 2, hundreds of years before New Vegas. There is more than enough time for Boss to create a regional empire, expand, stagnate, and eventually disappear without a trace. But while siding with the Brotherhood makes sense on an intellectual level, emotionally, it makes for an unsatisfying story. After all of this is their fault. So this time, we'll join the Rangers. But since the Rangers are relatively weak, in order to heal the wasteland, we'll have to manually remove some of the bad actors from Arizona, Michael Corleone style. Let's go through a checklist. The Church of the Holy Fire. Yeah, they'll have to go. Despite Aaron proclaiming himself the Lord of Phoenix, I never got the impression that the church takes any active role in governing the city. The only indication that something like this might be happening are the public executions. The truth is, the residents of Phoenix can take care of themselves. That's what they've been doing all this time anyway. I don't think detonating the nuke will solve our cult problem. That would probably take out half of the city. Have you ever seen anyone killing an overseer with a toothpick? Well, you have now. We cannot be stopped. These were his last words. Well, I happen to disagree. The computer provides information about the status of the nuke. It's 92% complete. The mechanical components are provided by the Tin Man. Uranium used to be supplied by Flagstaff. Shooting people in purple robes, just like the old times. I was certain melee weapons would become obsolete once we get enough ammunition for some of our big guns. But no, the energy spear is just too good. We can't dismantle the nuke, but at least I can make sure the cult engineers are dead. Now we need to take care of the second pillar of the cult leadership, Lord Aaron, ruler of Phoenix. Remember the unique atomic grenade we found in a special encounter ages ago? Our work here is done. Next, we have Smiths of Tucson. We can't leave the Tin Men alone. Certainly not after we accidentally empowered them by deactivating the Zax AI. Plus, it's the silliest faction in the entire game. These people are dorks. Mr. Hard fights unarmed and hits like a truck. He has a power fist or a similar enhancement. The grenade launcher ended up being my second favorite new weapon in Sonora. The Tin Man outside the hangar don't even care what happened to their boss. Since the Brotherhood and its vassals stand between Phoenix and the invading army, we'll need to take care of the Mexican vanguard as well. Back to Hermosillo, the entrance to the army command post. The Mexican industrial tile set is brand new and I'm pretty sure it's used once in the entire game. There are a bunch of unique tile sets like this. The soldiers are led by General Manuel Sarabia. Son of a peasant, grew up near Monterrey, Mexico. After the government actions brought devastation to the land, he joined the anti-state guerrillas. There, he met the future president of Mexico. After the revolution succeeded, Sarabia became a field commander in the new Mexican army. RIP Revolutionary Hero. We learned a number of things from the computer terminal. The Mexican Army Command HQ is located in the city of Monterrey in northeastern Mexico. There are large-scale battles being fought at El Paso. The Hermosillo Vanguard was but a tiny expeditionary force. Now for the final challenge. Detonating these torpedo nukes will take out the Brotherhood ship. Unfortunately, we are not skilled enough at science to hack the computer. This is for the best. Getting rid of the Brotherhood without saying goodbye to the General would have been anticlimactic. Expecting intense fighting ahead, I go back to the bike and re-equip our power armor. Power-armored Nightkin are not real. They can't hurt you. The key allows us to access the terminal controlling the torpedo launchers. I'm gonna edit this to make this look super easy so that the video flows better, but this battle is appropriately hard for an endgame challenge. I had to reload 10 times or so. The person in the end of the corridor is Paladin Barkley, our companion from the Inferno mission. This is not scripted, I just happened to leave him here. I guess that's the end of his arc. Companions in Sonora are supposed to have their own quests. I wonder what was his. Alright, so the terminal. We need to program the torps to blow up inside the ship. It's a dialogue puzzle, kind of. The process is similar to the computer interactions in Full Throttle. The trick is avoiding all the trap options. We set the timer for 2 minutes and run. Oh, fuck you, I don't have time for this. And so we escape. If you return to Puerto after the nuke goes off, it will look like this. Burned bodies, giant ants, and a crater. Alright, so let's go join the Rangers. I think we should qualify. I'm not gonna bother you with the details, but basically the Ranger boss made us do a bunch of diplomatic assignments before the villa is accepted into the greater Ranger-led community. In San Brahmin, we are to lead a counterattack against the missionaries from the church. In Phoenix, we had to make contact with an underground freedom fighting organization that seeks to overthrow Aaron's rule, but we did that already. Remember the ex-ranger guard with a bunch of half-eaten skeletons in the closet? It was our word against his, and our word didn't mean much. Oh, the situation changed. Guard is fucked. Look at this. A Ranger Duster, just like a New Vegas. It uses the leather armor graphics. So we sign an official agreement between the Villa and the Rangers. Time for the ending slides. Our community generally benefited from the new alliance. Some of the peasants got grumpy because losing a little sovereignty hurt their feelings or whatever. Don't look at me, this is what the ending slides say. For some reason, the game seems to think that we agreed to uphold Felix Tejada's moron conservatism. The villagers liked that so much they made us their leader, apparently. Thanks, but no thanks. The Rangers expanded their sphere of influence, taking new territories, creating new alliances. The Ranger leader, what's-his-name, satisfied with what was accomplished, quit the organization and went wandering the wastes, kind of like the Vault Dweller. The Brotherhood was evicted from Arizona and had no presence in the region for generations. The Church of the Holy Fire downscaled its activities, becoming a conventional religious institution, I guess. The mines of Flagstaff collapsed under the weight of their own unsolved problems. Well, and also because we blew them up with C4. The town's population aggressively contracted. Flagstaff, I cry every day. Garage City also allied with the Rangers for the benefit of both parties. Good for them. The logistical challenges posed by the Sonoran Desert seems to have stopped the advance of the Mexican military. Us assassinating their commander probably had something to do with it as well. I still wish we could join them. So that was Fallout Sonora. While making the video, I intentionally skipped around 80% of the side quests. There are also several major locations I intentionally didn't visit. A Spanish-speaking village, an oasis in the middle of the wasteland where the followers of the apocalypse set up their regional base, a fishing settlement, and an abandoned oil rig. There is still plenty for you left to see if you choose to experience the game yourself. Sorry for the long-ass video. I figured this episode needs to be as complete as possible because, realistically, not many people will play a game made on the old Fallout engine, even when the translation is finally out. Anyway, see you when I see you.